What up, y'all? What up? What up? What up? What up? I don't even know if I have time for the polar plug today. They haven't paid me yet, so I might have to stop that bit at some point. Don't know how long I can keep the bit going, but I did tell you yesterday was probably my last live of the week. However, that is always subject to change depending on if there's news, and today there is news and actual things to talk about. Now, I don't have much time. I have to take my daughter to soccer practice, and then I have to coach my son's basketball game. So, going to be running all over the place, but I'm squeezing this one in because there was some newsworthy events today in the world of women's basketball, specifically Satou Sabally coming out and saying it. She's not going back to the Dallas Wings. We already knew it, really. I mean, it had been speculated for a while. I think she did a TikTok or something that basically outlined that would be the case. And then it was reported by Annie Costabile of the Chicago Sun-Times, who's on top of these things and always like puts it out before it's actually out. Like she is like batting 100%, 1,000 on that, and putting that stuff out before it's actually out. And then Satou Sabally herself put that out today. This is from Unrivaled Media Availability. The video was shared by Moro Sports Media Production Company, and this is what Satou Sabally had to say, part of Phantom BC right now.
And then also, you're one of the top free agents in this year. So, I mean, do you have any ideas of what you might prioritize, or do you plan to stay in Dallas next season?
Yeah, I mean, I've already communicated with Dallas how grateful I am because they've made this a home for me for the past years, and I'm working with them together and finding a next home for me because I've already played my last game in Dallas, and I'm just excited. I'm excited for free agency. I'm able to talk to a lot of players outside the league because I have not played on a different team yet. And I'm excited to get to know them more on a personable level, but also knowing how they approach the game. And I just love having basketball conversations and high level IQ conversations about the game to know where I will fit best in the future.
Would you want to play with your sister?
Yeah, of course. In the future, I would love that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Ben?
Yeah, to just following up there, I guess, because you said it's out to, what was Dallas's reaction when you communicated that to them?
Obviously, at first they were still trying, but I think what is most effective is working with the player and listening to their wishes and hearing out how we can find a best solution for each other. So there was always great communication, more so on the agent front now because I need to focus on Unrivaled, and I will. So I'm trusting the people that I have on my staff and the front office with office to solve that further. So I have good communication with them.
Gotcha. And one on Unrivaled, I mean, I think you're the only player born outside of North America to be participating in Unrivaled this year. Obviously Lee Edwards being Canadian. Just how did you kind of weigh the decision to play here or go back to your elite team or go Fener somewhere else? And in future years, how do you think international players will weigh potentially trying to play in Unrivaled versus in Europe or China or in Australia, whatever?
Yeah. I was actually born in New York. Fun fact.
Oh.
So, all right, that last part is going to have some people talk. I was born in New York. She wants to play with her sister at some point in the future. I think at this juncture, I would be very surprised if Satou Sabally does not wind up with the New York Liberty or the Indiana Fever, one of those two teams. Now, I might be wrong. It's certainly possible another team gets involved. But to me, it feels like the writing is on the wall for one of those teams. And to be honest, if she goes to either of them, they're stacked. Like I see people complaining and crying about the Liberty. Obviously, the Liberty won the championship. It almost feels unfair that they got Leonie Fibic, who is better than people realize still, I think. And then if they were to get Sabally, they'd be completely stacked. But really, the same thing goes for the Fever. If the Fever re-signed Kelsey Mitchell and have Aaliyah Boston and have Caitlin Clark and then add Sabally, I mean, what are you going to do? How are you going to say that that's not a stacked squad either? Now, there are some concerns with Satou Sabally injury history being number one. She has not been able to stay on the floor through her career. Now, that could be something you're completely wary of as a prospective team, or you could chalk it up to, there have been players before who've had injury history and then they're fine. Bad luck, whatever the case may be. Is she brittle? Did she have bad luck? Combination of the two. That is, I think, concern number one. Concern number two is what you have to give to get, of course, because this is almost certainly going to be a trade, I believe. And concern number three would be the short-term nature of the contract. I don't really look at the short-term nature of the contract as a problem because I think, look, everybody's going to sign a short-term deal. So you can't sign anybody without it being a rental. Now, I understand in the aspect of a trade, you're giving something up and then the risk somebody leaves. But I don't believe these things can't be worked out behind the scenes either. There's probably going to be some sort of agreement. Hey, I'm going to sign this deal, or the core deal. It'll be the core deal under this, but regardless, that's what the trend is. And then we're going to renegotiate and work out a long-term deal for me to stay. So I don't think that's that much of a concern. How it would actually happen is more interesting. Sabally does have a degree of leverage here because core players can reject trades as part of that. They can sort of guide the destination. So I doubt the Wings get equal money on the dollar for her, but they'll get something instead of nothing. And they're clearly being amenable to her requests. So these are, part of the reasons why it'll be fascinating to see. New York has the connection with Sabrina Ionescu. She played with her in college. The connection with her sister. She just told you she was born in New York. So a lot going for the Liberty there. They lost some salary in the expansion draft. I believe they can make it work salary-wise. But yeah, to have Ionescu and Stewart and Jonquel Jones and Sabally and Thebich is because it sounds like Vandersloot is out of there too. And then the Fever, clearly the draft pick would be gone. If the Fever were to make the trade, the draft pick would be gone. What else do they trade? I don't know. Does NaLyssa Smith, I always see does NaLyssa Smith have trade value? I mean, if all Fever fans are saying the same thing about NaLyssa Smith, what makes you think another team wants her? I mean, she does have some talent, some ability, but I can't imagine that's sky high right now. But maybe that's one of the reasons she would have been protected if she were protected. So could NaLyssa Smith in the 8th pick in the draft get it done? I don't know. But I imagine Sabally will wind up with the Fever or the Liberty. So we'll get into the chat on that in a second. Otherwise, you know what else was sending me during that was Natasha Cloud's head nods. When Sabally said that initial comment of being done in Dallas, you got the Cloud yep, I heard it. That was funny. The other quick thing, I did a video on this previously, so if you want more expanded thoughts, you could check that one out. But I thought what JuJu Watkins said about Caitlin Clark in the Fox News piece by Jackson Thompson, one was yesterday, one was today. Very interesting in the sense of how she talked about welcoming all the new fans into the sport. And yeah, it can be annoying at times, but it's overall good for the growth of the game. And how she's open to, or not open, aware of the record chase of Caitlin Clark. And look, if you get a chance to do that, you should be after it. And then she also said, I wish I played like her in regards to Caitlin Clark. So it was kind of cool. I've said this before. I think the new wave has a little bit of a different perception on things. And I think it's only going to be positively received by the fans. I think this interview is going to help JuJu, not that she needed it, but only going to gain her some respect from a big, broad fan base who say, thank you for welcoming us as fans. And obviously also not going out of your way to mention other players other than Caitlin Clark and recognizing Caitlin Clark's impact and ability. Because I think sometimes Caitlin Clark's basketball ability gets slept on when we talk about her just as a phenom. As far as the record goes with JuJu, that's going to be tough. I don't think she should be going after it. She should be competitive like that. More power to her. She's a terrific player. I just don't see it happening because she's going to have to raise her scoring average quite a bit from where it is now in order to even sniff it. And as teams focus in more on her, as they play better competition, I think it's going to get harder. I think the only way to do it is to play way more games. And that's going to be hard to do too, especially when you get into the junior and senior years. So I wanted to touch on that quickly. I'll get to the comment section here in just a second. Like I said, I'm on a limited time, so going to give you a quick stream today, but I thought it was worth it. Make sure you like, subscribe to the channel. Hit me with that thumbs up. Hit the comment button. Women's Fast Break on SI. Check that out. We're covering women's basketball all the time. I have a new Bleacher Report stream. I did it earlier today. That will be every Thursday at 2 p.m. on women's college basketball. So make sure you check that out as well. All right, let me get to you guys. Hit me up in the comments section, please, and I will read as many as I can. Of course, always starting with the members and the super chats. Kevin Zwicker, always doing a great job promoting me. I appreciate the love, my man. Check out Rob's Bleacher Report Live. It was lit. I got to find the link and I'll post it. But yeah, that's every Thursday covering women's college basketball on their app. 2 p.m. Eastern time on Thursdays. Check and see if I've got member chats. Okay, so you've got AJ, Robin. Who do you like in the playoff game tonight to get you up to speed? Notre Dame is playing Penn State. Is this college football? I mean, I honestly, I'm not even joking. If I was doing like a serious show, like not serious as in why so serious, but like Sirius XM, I would be prepared for that. But I honestly have no idea. I could tell you who the coaches are. My dad went to Penn State, so he'd probably get mad at me if I didn't say Penn State. But I feel like every time I've watched Penn State in recent years, they have no offense, no passing game. I like the Notre Dame coach, Freeman. DJ Lauti says, why the fixation on Satou? I'm assuming there are other free agents out there, good or better. And member Chris Strawn replies, she is crazy good. What other free agents are you talking about? Well, you know, Satou has tremendous ability. She has tremendous ability, and she's the most available. She's the best available free agent, it seems like. So that's why. You know, yeah, there are other. Brianna Stewart is a free agent. She ain't going nowhere. So it's a waste of time talking about her. Right? Versus Sabally, who clearly is about to be on the move. And that's the difference. And Sabally's potential with the Fever is out of control. Chris Strawn adds, Melissa Smith is just too short for her play style in the W. Worked in college, but struggles in the W. Kiki in the up-and-coming draft also in the same boat. Well, my thing with Melissa is also, I question her basketball IQ and her motor at times, and she's not a good enough shooter. She's got to become a better shooter. She's got to make better decisions out on the court, and she's got to be consistently energized and activated. Because when she's grabbing rebounds and stuff, she's good. But her defense, she let Angel Reese work her on the block. I never seen Angel Reese work nobody like that before. Worked her. And I feared every time she had the basketball in her hands, I was terrified that it was a turnover waiting to happen. Every single time. All right, let me get into some more of these comments. Jonathan Andrews says, I would love it. Come to the Liberty. Hey, look, Liberty fans are probably with you. Yay, says Tokyo. Hello, says Jay. What up? Top Gun. Think it's a sign. She's coming to the Fever. Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's going to be the Fever or the Liberty. I do think it'll be the Fever or the Liberty. Now, that's not a guarantee, but seems to be where the tea leaves are pointing. It's hard to handicap one over the other, though. Lindy Smallwood, I think Satou wants to go to Fever in New York. She did say in the future play with her sister. I think she wants to play the best with Caitlin. I do think there will be a bunch of one-year contracts. Well, you also heard her say she'll talk to like front offices and discuss where the best fit is going to be, right? So that's going to weigh in who can actually sell her the most on that. And yes, the wording on her sister was pretty specific. In the future does not mean this summer. That, yes, this summer is the future, but so is the summer of 2028, So that's the way I look at that. Lindy Smallwood. JuJu understands what's happening. JuJu knows it's about doing your best and letting the cards fall where they fall. Yeah, she's got a good head on her shoulders. Easy to root for. JuJu's easy to root for. Seems like a good kid. And obviously a good player. Kevin Zwicker says, can't see Sabally passing up on a chance to play with CC. Also, welcome back, Kenny Omega. Get full coverage on that on the Fast Count. That's his wrestling channel. You check that out. Plug there. You can also check me out on Denise Salcedo's SmackDown post shows on Friday nights. Sorry to betray Polar for the little caffeine. I was my son, he loves to go to Wawa Big Row after I pick him up from his daycare because there's a Wawa right across the street, and he begs me to go to Wawa every single time. Mike Wiseman adds, it was so refreshing to hear JuJu talk positively about CC, rare among players not on her own team. I mean, it is kind of crazy how rare it is, how rare it has been to just hear like a straight out compliment, or the truth without any like qualifications, without any reverence tax paid, without listing others, without avoiding it. Just look how it's received. Great. And it's not a big thing. It didn't take away from anybody else. And it, in fact, only helps JuJu or whomever. Not to say you have to be like bowing at the altar or bending the knee or anything like that. That's not the case either. Just like tell the truth and keep it real. Def G says, Melissa Smith just doesn't work well with the Fever's current lineup. She's a hella talented player. They just don't need a post who can make hard shots in the paint, but it's a defensive liability. Yeah. I mean, well, I think you're not a hell of a player if you're a defensive liability, for one. Number two, yeah, she can't spread the floor. I don't know. I'm not sure how high her trade value is either. I agree, Top Gun. I would pick Caitlin as the MVP going in the next season for sure. Marlene Smith says Kelsey Plum is leaving the Aces. Definitely seems to be some rumblings about that. And, that might be good for Kelsey Plum's career to go somewhere where she can be the focal point a little bit. Obviously, she has some star power. Obviously, she can score the basketball. It was her record before Clark broke it. So Kelsey Plum is a player to watch, I think. And I'd be looking at the Valkyries. I saw the speculation about the Jewel Lloyd sign and trade for her. And was it the Sparks I saw in Annie's piece? But I don't know about that one. Unless, Oh, by the way, while I'm talking about the West Coast, obviously, if anybody's out there on the West Coast in the Los Angeles area, thoughts are with you. That's a terrifying situation out there. I don't really have anything to add. I'm not going to blame anyone or rant and rave. I can gather more information and figure out what I think about it long term. But clearly, this is a uncontainable situation at the moment, and a terrifying situation at the moment that is leaving a lot of people out of their homes. So if you're out there on the West Coast in LA, of course, thoughts are with you and hoping for the best. It doesn't seem like those fires are obviously an isolated incident but wow, that's a scary thing for sure. Spinks the Cat says everyone got to lay off Lexi. She knows that CC's the true point guard, but just propping up her teammate as she should. Yeah, I mean, I talked about that yesterday. That's nothing. Complete nothing. Peterman says, Tanaya Latson and Hannah Hidalgo are the two best college women players right now. The media narrative is falling apart. Definitely Hidalgo. I agree. I had Latson in my top 5. I need to see Latson play some real teams, but she's terrific. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying she's not terrific. But before I put her above some of the other players, I want to see her against some real competition too. Success says, do the Liberty have a much better package to offer Dallas than the Fever do? Not really. Though I do think they have a higher draft pick. Because I think they have a draft pick from a trade. Oh, it's only one spot higher, though. They're 7th. So, no, I think they probably have comparable packages. So it's going to be more, to be honest, it would probably be more what Sabally chooses than anything else. Cole Stringer, if Indiana gets Satou, the lineup is Mitchell, CC, Lexi, Satou, and Boston. Do we think we can really go up against teams like Liberty and Aces? Yes. The answer to that question is yes. Especially because it's not just, that's not the only move they'll be allowed to make. You can make another move on the edges. Kami9 says Sabrina is going to work her magic on Satou. Adajari says Tanaya Latson is my college women's basketball player of the year. Sadly, JuJu will win it just like Asia was crowned before the start of the season. I mean, Hidalgo's the heavy favorite right now, I would think. Well, we'll see how Latson does against some of the better teams. I had it earlier this week. Hidalgo, JuJu, Betts. Let's not forget about Lauren Betts, number 1 team in the country. Page and Latson. Really, it's Miles. There's 6 players in the mix. Page is falling. Well, whether they're prioritizing Kelsey Mitchell over anything else is irrelevant. They can core her too. So unless they face the same situation where Kelsey Mitchell says, please, please trade me. Please, 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 please trade me. I'm not happy here. Kelsey Mitchell's going to be back with the Fever, and they don't really have to do anything. Fever must have. Kelsey Mitchell will be tough to replace her no matter what. I mean, they've said they're prioritizing her. Cindy Hudson. Hello, Robin. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you as well. Kyle Warren, I get Satou on New York, but all the stars are going to have to take major minute cuts. Everyone willing to do that. That's an interesting point because the Fever have a need for Satou and what she brings. The Liberty do not because they have size at that spot. I mean, they have Fibich and Jones, 2 different, very different types of players, and Stewart. All different types of players. 3 very different players, but who are all versatile with size. Marie says Plum would be a perfect fit if Kelsey Mitchell doesn't come back. I think Mitchell's coming back, but we'll see. Got a message from Germany. Plum and Martin on the Valkyrie sounds interesting. I'm assuming you were saying something from Germany and reading your name. I apologize if I'm jumping to conclusions, but your name seemed German. Whew, what if they do a sign and trade with Fibich? I would not trade Fibich under any circumstances if I'm them. Fibich is one of my favorite players in the entire league. I think she's a superstar. So if they did, yeah, that would definitely get it done if I'm Dallas for sure. If I'm New York, I wouldn't do that. Hidalgo, Latson, Page, JuJu, and Betts are in my first all-college team. What's your first and second? Yeah, that's why I said that would be my first team, probably. And then, Miles is probably on my first team now or fighting for it. So Miles would be next. Who else? Flauget. That's 2 of the 10. That's 6 and 7. Cheyenne Sellers. Maybe Madison Booker. And Audie Crooks. That's off the top of my head. Yeah, Fevich is gold. I'm with you there. Full show. Full show. All right. I am going to have to take my daughter to practice here in a moment and then coach my son's basketball game. So, like I said, I was hopping in here for a quick stream. I've got five more minutes or so, guys. If you want to hit me with any more comments, questions, reactions. But I figured I could have just uploaded a video, but I've already done a speculative, Sabally to the Fever video. So thought it would be better to interact with you guys and hop on. I hope he wins too. I'm coaching him, right? But he's the best player on our team. And, I don't say that because he's our dad. I mean, I'm his dad. Rocket Knight says I would get Kiki if I was the Fever. Well, she's gonna probably not be picked 8th. She'll probably be off the board by then unless you trade up. And if they're going to get Sabally, they're going to not have their draft pick. I imagine Peggy Satou would not want to be coming off the bench anywhere she goes. I mean, it wouldn't even be an ego thing. It's just, when you're a really good player, you want more opportunity. So I think that's unlikely. And that was an interesting point, the glut that the Liberty have up front. But people I think that, it's sort of like that NBA super team thing. I'm not so worried about Paige's knees as much as how she's played. I don't think the knee thing is any concern from the other day, to be honest. I don't think that's a concern at all. She got rolled up on awkwardly. That could happen to anybody, and she's not really that hurt. I'd be much more concerned about her lacking that fire and takeover ability so far this year. I mean, she had the one knee, and she doesn't really have an injury history beyond that, does she? But let me just put it this way. I don't think the most recent thing was anything, to be honest with you. Well, it wasn't even the fourth quarter. I also don't think that was a problem either. It was still the third quarter. They're up 30 points against a lot of those teams. I mean, then she's not playing at all. I don't think there was anything to blame for the Paige deal the other day. It just happens. Pharaoh says LSU versus Tennessee and South Carolina Gamecocks versus Texas A&M play today. Yep. Flauget, that'll be interesting, that game. Tennessee's undefeated. I think, doesn't Notre Dame play today too? Justin says, did you see Caitlin had dinner with Dave Portnoy? Yeah, I saw him say that. I don't have any thoughts on that unless something comes out of the dinner. They're each entitled to have dinner with whomever they like. He's a big supporter of hers, clearly. So, but I don't have any thoughts on it because there's nothing to have thoughts on. If he says what came of the dinner, I saw the little clip that they posted, but that was so far inside Barstool, I didn't think it made any sense to cover. I don't even know what they were talking about, to be honest with you. Yes, I will be covering Unrivaled. Lindy Smallwood with some transactional updates for us here in the chat. Make sure you hit that like button, guys. Comment, subscribe, all those good things. I looking at the clock. Yeah, I should probably get going so I'm not late, and I make sure I can get everything done here. Maria Monsegur says Gino doesn't protect her players. You shouldn't let the records on the floor when they're so ahead in the game. No need risking a player. How many games has Gino won? For how many years? They win a lot of these games. I mean, come on. You can't you can't be so delicate, guys. She wasn't in with 2 minutes left in a 50-point game. There was several minutes left in the third quarter, 2 minutes left in the third quarter. She was about to check out, not going to play the fourth. I think that criticism is ridiculous, to be honest with you. I don't know if Miles is officially declared for the draft. Christina Arif says, what do you think the Fever would offer for Satou? The 8th pick is the basis of it, and then whatever player they want that's not one of the players that's off limits. More or less is what I would say. Sally Gainey says joining her sister is not going to happen. Her sister is playing off the bench, but was a major reason why they won the championship. Like Katie, if she joined the Liberty, she wouldn't be respected for joining an already established championship team. Yeah, I just don't yeah. I just don't the roster fit is the more interesting thing for me. Justin says, would you be willing to have a conversation with Natalie Esquire about race in women's basketball? Sure. I'd be willing to have a conversation with pretty much anybody on pretty much anything. I don't know what race in women's basketball means, though. I know we've talked about it a lot, but I still don't understand what the issue is. There have been great white players for a long time. A lot of great white players. It's a uniquely Caitlin Clark thing that brought the conversation up, but she ain't the only white girl who's hooped at a high level. And I've literally never even thought about who my favorite player is or what my evaluations are of players based on race. And that's a ridiculous concept and notion to me. It's laughable. Like the fact that, people had to tiptoe around basketball opinions because they're afraid to be called race. Like it even took me a minute to be like, no, I'm not. No, enough of y'all. So, but to answer your question, of course, I just don't understand what the actual premise is, but by all means, even though she blocked me for having a basketball conversation on Twitter. Bobby, you tentatively dipping my toes in the live chat waters. Oh, Bobby. I don't know if the game has passed him by per se. I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's not like they suck. Yes, Satou is leaving the Wings. B. Harris, for sure. Leaving the Wings. Whoa, any other news since I've been in here? Let me check. Damn, TikTok's about to shut down in the U.S.? Huh. I think Satou is a great fit for the Fever, Dadon. Perfect, seamless fit. I mean, couldn't be a better fit. Fits better on the Fever than the Liberty, and that's not any rooting interest. That's just from what each team respectively needs. All right, guys, let me make sure I get my daughter to practice on time and get to my son's basketball game on time to coach it. Wanted to hop in, though, since there was actually stuff to talk about. I'm actually exiting with a bunch of people still in here, so I apologize for that. Make sure you hit the like. Make sure you hit the subscribe, comment, all that stuff. Top Gun says the Fever will be running teams out of the gym next season. Bobby says if Satou goes to Liberty, it's game over for the Fever. Yeah, I mean, that lineup, though, Stewie, Jonquel, Satou, Sabrina, and Leone, I mean, that's a big-ass lineup, that's for sure. I guess it is versatile. I guess it could work. I mean, looking at it, it could work. That's the scary part. B. Harris says, I'm a WNBA dude, but I have a hard time getting excited about it. Right? We haven't seen it start yet. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. We're getting more it's something though. It's better than nothing. That's the other, that's the other thing. We'll see what it is. I don't know. I don't have a full opinion on the product yet because I haven't seen the product yet. But I'll say, like, I'm not going to complain about getting something that wasn't there before. That's just a strange thing to complain about. All right. Until next time, guys. Beat.